6 years. 6 bloody years is how long Disney has made us wait for an all-new Star Wars movie on the big screen. 6 years of building anticipation, 6 years of Mandalorian momentum, and 6 years to get this right. And after seeing The Mandalorian and Grogu at an early preview this week, I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to tell you that Disney just served us yesterday's leftovers, warmed up, and tried to charge IMAX prices for it. G'day, viewers, and welcome to the Hollywood Menace. Okay, viewers, here's the pitch. The New Republic hires Din to hunt down Imperial fugitives, and that spirals into a central bounty hunt for an elusive Imperial warlord, with the Hutt crime syndicate pulled in as uneasy allies. Sigourney Weaver shows up as a high-ranking New Republic official, Rodder the Hutt makes an appearance, and the whole thing is set in the Wild West window between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, after the Empire fell, before the First Order rose. At its heart, it's a story about apprenticeship. Din isn't just protecting Grogu anymore, he's training him. On paper, that's a movie. So why doesn't it feel like one? Okay, let's start with what actually works, because there is stuff here that works very well. The opening 5 minutes of this movie, best part of the film, hands down. We get the Mandalorian in full John Wick mode. Efficient, lethal, beautifully choreographed. The camera knows where to be. The pacing snaps. The action has weight. For 5 glorious minutes, you sit in that theater seat and you think, okay, they've figured it out. They've cracked the code. This is going to be a real movie. Some of the effect shots in that opening are really great. Cinematic, widescreen. The kind of imagery that justifies a theatrical release. And then the movie has to keep going. And that's where the problems start. So let's start with Sigourney Weaver. Now, I love Sigourney. We all love Sigourney Weaver. That woman is a sci-fi legend. But she looks like she stumbled in from the wrong franchise here. She looks like she thought she was shooting an Alien sequel, took a wrong turn at craft services, and ended up on the Mandalorian set. She's phoning it in. There is no spark, no investment, no sense that she has any idea what this universe is or even why she's in it. It's a paycheck performance, and you can feel it in every scene she's in. Okay, viewers, now let's talk about the Hutts. Somebody at Lucasfilm thought, yeah, let's use CGI to make the Hutts move around. Let's give them mobility, dynamic camera angles. Let's modernize them. Here's the problem. Even though Jabba the Hutt sat on a slab for most of Return of the Jedi, barely moved a muscle, he felt more real than these CGI Hutts do. There was a weight to him, texture, substance. You believed he could smell bad. You believed he could eat you. These new Hutts, they look like video game cutscenes. All motion, no weight, no menace. That's a problem when the Hutts are supposed to be major players in your story. All right, boys and girls, now let's talk about Grogu, Baby Yoda. Look, I love Grogu. Everybody loves Grogu. He's the most marketable creature Disney has minted in 20 years. But he is written poorly in this film, inconsistently. The writers seem to have forgotten or chose to ignore just how strong this little kid is with the Force. There are at least 2 scenes in this movie where it would be barely an inconvenience for Grogu to lift something, push something, or sense something coming and resolve the tension in about 4 seconds. But the script needs tension. The script needs danger. So suddenly Grogu can't do any of that. He just sits there looking cute. Look, you can't have it both ways. You can't show us in season after season of television that this kid can lift a mudhorn, choke a stormtrooper, heal a dying man, and then conveniently forget those abilities the second your plot needs jeopardy. Audiences notice. I noticed. By the second time it happened, I was pulled completely out of the movie. That's lazy writing, and Star Wars used to be better than that. All right, viewers, now let's talk about the VFX here, which are wildly inconsistent. Some shots are great, really great. Cinematic, polished, theatrical. Others look like television. Functional, yes, fine, but not big screen worthy. And at least 2 shots in this film look like my old mates at ILM simply ran out of time. Like, they ran out of runway. The release date was coming, and they had to ship what they had. Now, as someone that has friends in the business, I know that actually happens. That should not happen on a tentpole Star Wars release, but here we are. And by Act 3 of this film, I was actually checking my watch. I was sitting there wondering when this film was going to wrap up. It didn't feel like it was building to an escalating climactic finale. It felt like a binge of 3 or 4 episodes of the TV show on Disney Plus, back to back to back, without the natural breathing room of the weekly streaming releases. All right, viewers, now let's talk about the directing here. Now, look, Jon Favreau is a competent director. He directs this thing with the exact same beats, same rhythms, and the exact same look as the Disney Plus show, which is fine for streaming. It is not fine when you're asking people to pay $18, find parking, and then spend $300 on popcorn and a soda. So, viewers, where do I come out on The Mandalorian and Grogu? What do I think? The film isn't bad, but it's not good either, and that's a problem. It feels like yesterday's leftovers warmed up. It is certainly not a succulent cinematic meal. It's better than the Book of Boba Fett, yes. It feels closer in spirit to season 1 of the TV show. There are flashes, 5-minute opening, a few great effect shots. The core Din and Grogu dynamic works, where you can see the movie could have been really good, but it never really assembles. It never becomes an event. It never earns the theatrical price tag. And that's where I have a big problem. Now, viewers, if you're walking into this expecting Star Wars to feel big again, relevant, the way it felt in 1977, 1980, 99, 2015, you're going to walk out disappointed. This is one of the weakest Star Wars films, period. Now, the only ones I'd put below it are the last trilogy and the awful Solo. That's the company we're keeping with this film. All right, now let's talk about the box office. Let's talk real money. Tracking is hovering around $85 million at the time of this recording for the opening weekend. 85 for Star Wars. For Disney's first theatrical release for Star Wars in over 6 years. Now, if that number holds, that's a catastrophic disappointment. And with mixed reviews already coming in, this is almost certainly a front-loaded release. I'm going to expect over a 60% plus drop-off in week 2 at the box office. That's not how franchises grow. That's how franchises end. Now, here's where I'm coming from personally. I actually worked at Lucasfilm. I worked directly with George Lucas. I was there when this was a mighty creative empire. And I've watched for 10 years now as Disney and Kathleen Kennedy have reduced it to a smoldering ruin. Hire, fire, a complete failure to handle Luke, Leia, and Han with the respect they deserved. They never even put them on screen together. They destroyed Luke Skywalker's legacy altogether. And no Mandalorian movie, no matter how cute Grogu gets, can undo that damage. Starfighter with Ryan Gosling next year isn't going to right this ship either. Because the problem isn't the next movie, the problem is the foundation. And then, viewers, there's the score. Ludwig Göransson, the guy who gave us that iconic Mandalorian theme, the percussive, mysterious, instantly recognizable motif that defined the show, returns here. And he makes an absolute mess of it. We get a horrible synth motif that sounds like it was a rejected demo from the original Blade Runner in 1982. We get weird chorale chants that have no business being in this story. We get music that doesn't line up with the action on screen, emotional swells during nothing moments, dead silence during scenes that needed lift. And every 20 minutes or so, a quick stab of that Mando theme, just a few notes, as if to remind the audience, oh, That's right. This is the Mandalorian film. Look, John Williams' shoes are impossible to fill. Nobody's pretending otherwise. But here, Goranson is scoring by committee, throwing everything at the wall, hoping something sticks. It started annoying me 20 minutes into the film. Did it annoy me as much as the giant plot holes? As much as a genuinely awful dialogue? Not quite, but it was close. Although I will say, seeing Sigourney Weaver flying an X-Wing is still the most ridiculous thing in this movie. A jacked Rodder the Hutt speaking English is a close second. This film has problems on every level. All right, viewers. So, what's my final verdict on The Mandalorian and Grogu? What should you actually do with this information here? Skip it in theaters. Don't pay the premium. And definitely don't shell out for the IMAX version. There is nothing about this movie that earns a bigger screen. No sweeping vistas, no jaw-dropping moments, nothing that demands the format. Just wait. Wait a few months. Watch it where it belonged in the first place, at home on Disney+, where it would have been a perfectly fine 4-episode arc of the show. That's the experience this movie was actually built for. Don't let the marketing convince you otherwise. Now, I think Star Wars needs a complete rethink, not a reboot, a creative reset at the leadership level. You cannot put the weight of a billion-dollar mythology on the shoulders of a little green gremlin and expect him to be able to carry it. That's not fair to Grogu. That's not fair to us, the fans. And most of all, it's not fair to the legacy that George built. This is the Hollywood Menace. Thanks for stopping by and listening. Until next time, ta-ta and farewell.